Hello everybody, and welcome to this video teaching you how to play the fantastic game of Magical Athlete. Since the dawn of time, humans have been playing race board games that involve moving your little person along a track in a race to the finish. And Magical Athlete is a fantastic thing. It at once honors this history while also turning it into a huge, endlessly funny joke. And better yet, while people have been enjoying this game for over 20 years, this is the best it has ever looked, with a characterful, psychedelic, yellow submarine aesthetic from artist Angela Kirkwood, and such memorable characters as Egg, Blimp, and Huge Baby. The very basics of this game are literally child's play. You and all the other players are going to be taking turns rolling these big chunky dice, moving your token along the board, and whoever crosses the finish line first is the winner. However, that's just where we're starting, and from here, the experience is going to get absolutely unhinged. Here's how you play. To set the game up, first, put the racetrack board in the middle of the table, mile side up. Dump out the bag of point chips and stack the gold trophy and silver rosette point chips in order, with the biggest on the bottom. Shuffle the deck of racers and keep that nearby. Dump out the bag of racers. Oh my god, they're all so nice! And finally, give everyone a die. And with that, you're ready to begin. Now, Magical Athlete is a very simple game made profoundly weird by the fact that every different racer in this game totally breaks the rules in a different way. For example, Suckerfish can just attach themselves to any racer leaving their space. Flip-Flop can just not roll the dice for their move and instead swap spaces with any racer. And Legs can skip rolling their main move and move 5 instead every time. And in this game, you're going to be doing 4 races, one after another, in which everyone is going to be putting a different racer into the race that represents them. So the first step in a game of Magical Athlete is that players have to assemble their team. You are going to deal out a number of racer cards equal to the number of players at the table times 2, and then you're going to draft them. To see who drafts first, everyone around the table is going to roll their dice, and the person who gets the highest number gets the first pick. But if 2 people tie for the highest number, then the next player down is going to get the first pick. The person who goes first is going to read these cards or just look at the pretty pictures and select a racer for their team. And then clockwise around the table, another player is going to take a racer, and then another player, and then another player, and then you don't continue around the circle. No, you're going to go backwards. That's right. It's a snake draft. That player who got the last choice is going to choose again, and then you're going to go backwards round the circle until everybody has 2 races. So the person who gets to choose first also chooses last. But we're going to play 4 races, right? Which means you need 4 races, which means we're going to do it again. For the second draft you do, the player sat to the left of the player who got the first choice last time gets the first choice this time. Then you go around the table, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it's a snake draft again, so that 4th player gets to choose again, and then you go back around the circle, and just like that, everyone has a team of 4 racers. You can take the rest of the race cards in the game and put them to the side. And with your team in hand, you're now ready to prepare for the first race. Everyone is going to roll off again, just like you did to see who gets to draft first, but this time you're going to see who goes first. The dice with the highest number, they're going to be in first place, and you're going to go clockwise from that player. But again, if 2 players tie for first place, it's the person in 3rd place who gets to go first. Once you know whether you're going first, second, third, or 4th, everybody then selects a racer to represent them and reveals simultaneously. Grab the token representing your racer and line them up at the start space. I'll just add here that when you're choosing who's going to represent you in the first race, you should know that each racer in your team can only represent you for one of the game's 4 races. And also, later races are worth more points. You're going to be winning points for coming first and second in Magical Athlete, and also for doing some other stuff. And the winner at the end of the game is the person who gets the most points across all 4 races. Look at me teaching you how to win the game in a How to Play video. What a treat. On your turn, you are going to roll your dice and move your racer that many spaces. This is called your main move. I'm highlighting that because everyone's racer cards will have very detailed instructions of how that racer specifically breaks the game, and we got to get into some terminology. Once that player has rolled the dice and finished moving, you're going to go clockwise around the table. The next person is going to roll the dice and continue moving, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on until somebody crosses the finish line. The first racer to cross the finish line wins that player the lowest numbered golden trophy token still available. I'll add here that when a racer crosses the finish line, their power no longer affects the race. They are removed from the simulation unless the card says otherwise. Once somebody has won, you're going to keep racing to see who comes in second place. The person who crosses the line in second place takes the top rosette chip, and then the race is over. You don't need to humiliate yourselves seeing who comes in third place. It doesn't matter because none of the rest of you are getting any points. Once you know which player came first and which player came second and the race is over, everybody is going to take the cards of their racers that competed in this race and put them to one side. All the tokens of those racers can go to one side as well. And you're also going to flip the board from mile to wild wilds. It's very exciting. By default, the 4 races you do in Magical Athlete see you flipping the board every time, so it goes mild to wild to mild to wild again, but you can do whatever you want. You can play the same side 4 times, you can do mild, mild, wild, wild, you can do other combinations that I haven't even dreamed of. But a couple of things to consider though when you're deciding which of your questionable athletes to enter into the second race. First off, the person who's going to go first this time is whichever player had the racer that was furthest back on the track when the race ended. So whoever's basically in last place gets to go first this time. Or it's whichever player was eliminated first if you're playing with one of the horrible racers that can eliminate people. The other thing to consider is that the wild side of the board is a bit different. Some of the spaces on wild wilds have special effects when you stop on them. When you stop on an arrow, you are immediately launched that many spaces forwards or backwards. When you stop on a trip space, you're going to trip. That is a very important term in Magical Athlete. It means that your token lies down, and when we get to your next turn, you don't do a main move, you instead just stand your token back up again. Important thing though, tripping does not end your current turn prematurely. So if you would stop on a space, then fall over, then your racer's power would trigger, you have fallen over, and then you might continue sliding forwards or backwards. I will use this opportunity to point out the incredibly important timing rules in Magical Athlete, which, to be clear, if you forget this or you just trigger powers in a wild way, that's fine. This is a chaotic game where you are going to forget some rules, and the game works absolutely fine anyway. But these rules do need to exist for the tryhards among us, and so I'm going to go through them now. Once your racer has finished their main move and stopped moving, the first thing that happens is the special effect of the racetrack spaces if you're playing on wild wilds. Then you are going to use your racer's special power, if they have any, that's appropriate for right now. And then everybody else around the table might have powers that trigger on your turn. And if multiple players have powers that would trigger on your turn after your move and your power, you're going to do it going clockwise around the table. Where was I? Oh my gosh. Yes, okay. There's one more kind of special space on Wild Wilds, and that is this star space. These spaces are awesome. Every time you stop on them, you get a free point, as if you'd won a race. You can just grab a star and put that in front of you, and no one can take that away from you. Unless you're playing Sisyphus. Let's not get into it. I'm going to teach you another important bit of terminology here. Racetrack spaces happen when players stop on them, right? That means whenever a token stops moving either from your main move or your power or the racetrack power. Let's imagine our hare here rolled a 3 and went 1, 2, 3 and got onto this space, which means they get a free star point. Then imagine another racer's power around the table shot them forward, and then another racer's power around the table shot them backwards. They have once again stopped on the star space, which means they get another free point. I'm gonna teach you another fiddly rule. Because of stuff like this, or about a million other edge cases, there might be times that you do or don't want to use your racer's power. That's why it's very important that you know. If your power says that you can do something, it means it's always a choice. If it doesn't say the word can, it means you have to do it. It's automatic. And those are all the basic rules of the game. Once you've completed the second race and doled out the points of first and second place, you're going to flip the board again. Everyone's going to choose a third racer. You're all going to line up, starting with the player who's in last place. You're all going to complete the third race. You're all going to give out points for first and second place. Then you're going to do it one fourth and final time. And everybody is just going to have one racer left in their team. And that racer is going to race in the final, most valuable race of the game. Once you have completed the 4th race, it's time to find out who around the table has won, which is simply the player with the highest total value of chips in front of them. Now, when you're playing a game with as many different chaotic powers as this, you are going to need to get into some fiddly details at times. That's not my word, that's the word of the publisher. There's literally a double-page spread in the manual titled Fiddly Details. But the most important thing to take away from these pages is that this is a silly game. If there's an unexpected rules interaction, I would, before cracking open the rulebook and cross-referencing cards, first just see if you can all figure out what you think should happen based on vibes. If that doesn't work, you can go to the manual, but if you are still stumped, don't sweat it. You can always just roll dice to decide what happens. All the same, I'm going to run you through a few of the all-star fiddly rules in Magical Athlete. First off, if you roll a dice and get a 1 and then have an ability that allows you to re-roll it and you get a 4, that 1 never existed for the purposes of all the racers in this game who are desperate for you to roll a 1. Second off, the start space is a space. I'm well aware how ludicrous these fiddly rules sound unless you've played the game and understood why some of this stuff is important. Next fiddly rule, if you would move 2 and then something lowers your movement, so you move 0 and your piece stays in the same space, that doesn't count as moving. And finally, this is my favorite fiddly rule, if you manage to create an infinite loop of rules interactions in this game, run that loop once and then stop, because anything else is just silly. But as I say, if you get into trouble, there's a great glossary of terms in the game, and there are 4 pages you should look at because not only do they have clarifications on racer powers, but also they have excellent little biographies of all the racers. I will just add here that if Magical Athlete seems confusing, don't stress about it. This game is forever making 2 weird sets of rules collide with one another, and a player having to step in like a kind of cartoon rules lawyer is absolutely part of the fun. That's it, you folks are ready to play Magical Athlete. But before I let you go, I will just point you towards a couple of variants you can play that are in the back of the manual. First off, if you are playing Magical Athlete with just 2 players, to ensure that this game is as chaotic as it should be, there's a 2-player version in which in every race you're both going to be fielding 2 races, so the racetrack always has at least 4 of you crashing into one another. This includes slightly different rules for recruiting, preparing, and also racing, and I would take a peek at the manual if there's just 2 of you. But also, if you're ready for something absolutely manic, you can do the same thing if you have 3 players, where everyone fields 2 races and the racetrack is going to be packed with a whopping 6 racers all working as teams when they are not busy accidentally getting in each other's way. I'll just warn you here though that 6 racers in this game can be utter carnage. So if there's just 3 of you and you haven't played a lot of Magical Athlete, I might just play the normal 3-player game first before you start racing with 2 racers each. That's it. There's nothing more I can teach you. It's time for you folks to draft your first wacky team of racers and start creating rules interactions that the designers of this game never dreamed of. Good luck. You're going to have such a good time.